Kia ora, koutou, ko Madeleine Armstrong-Wilcox, tōku ingoa. I'm the Head of Programs here at the Neurodiversity in Education project. We operate the Building a Neuro-Inclusive School network of expertise. Welcome to this cafe session recording. And this session is all about supporting our neurodivergent teachers and perhaps colleagues who are neurodivergent. This is not a session about teachers of neurodivergent kids, but teachers who are themselves neurodivergent and how we might support them or each other. Okay, karakia as we begin, tū taua mai I runga, tū taua mai I raro, tū taua mai I roto, tū taua mai I waho. Kia tau ai te mauri tū, te mauri ora, ki te katoa, haumea hui e tai ki e. Welcome everyone to this session. So, this is a recording of the live cafe session. We didn't record the actual cafe session where people came and chatted so that people were comfortable sharing and talking and discussing ideas. But in this recording, we'll just run through what we talked about and how we're going to develop supporting each other as neurodivergent teachers and colleagues of neurodivergent teachers, how we apply our ideas about neuro-inclusive schools to the people that work in those schools, because we know schools are workplaces. They aren't just places for kids, they're places we go to work every day. So we started off talking about who are we as neurodivergent teachers or their colleagues. We talked about how we might recognize neurodivergence in ourselves or in others, how we might identify as neurodivergent. We shared these ideas that our next is all about characteristics first rather than diagnosis first. There are a lot of people who can identify with some of the characteristics of different forms of neurodivergence. So we take a characteristics first approach. We also take a strengths-based approach because having a differently wired brain can be amazing. And it's great for everyone that everyone's brains are differently wired. Imagine how dull the world would be if we were all the same. So we focus on the strengths of our differences, but we're also realistic and we recognize that those differently wired brains can have some sticking points as well. It's exactly the same approach we take when we're talking about our students and neuro-inclusion. In that respect, we can apply exactly those same ideas to ourselves as teachers. Okay, and just dialing into this really important word that we use all the time, neuro-inclusion. It's about recognizing our brains, understanding our brains and other people's brains, supporting each other, supporting those unique ways that our brains work, getting the support that people need, getting that in around them, and celebrating all of those differences. All of those things apply equally to the teaching workforce as they do to our everyday lives with students as well. Okay. In the session, we talked through some of the strengths that we bring as neurodivergent teachers to our roles as educators or other roles we might have in education. And we focused back on our recent Neurodiversity Celebration Week, where we asked some of our young neurodiversity champions, what are some of the great things about their neurodivergent brains? What are some of those strengths? When we were chatting in the session, we had strengths including creativity, empathy for neurodivergence or for difference generally. We have emotional sensitivity, emotional awareness. We had energy and focus. all sorts of fantastic and unique brain-based strengths that we bring to our roles as educators, or that we see in our colleagues. So if you're watching this recording, just take a minute and think, what are the strengths that I bring as a neurodivergent teacher to my role? Or if you're thinking about colleagues, what are the strengths that their uniquely wired brains are bringing to our school or our context? Again, though, we're realistic and we know that sometimes our differently wired brains can have some sticking points as well. We referred to the tool that our organisation has developed, which is our Neurodivergent Learner Characteristics tool. And in that tool, we unpack both strengths and sticking points, because let's be realistic. And recognise that there can be challenges. So some of the sticking points we talked through included high sensitivity to noise, high sensitivity to being overstimulated or overwhelmed, especially in a busy school or in a busy classroom environment, overthinking. And I would just challenge that to say that actually people in the gifted world often believe that overthinking is not a thing that exists. It's just called thinking. But granted, that loop that a brain can get in. Dealing with workload matters, administrative demands of roles in education can be quite high. Fair few social sticking points, working with colleagues, trying to understand colleagues' different perspectives when they weren't very clear, working in a low trust environment with other colleagues, finding it difficult to unpack murky or mysterious social cues in colleagues, being able to connect with each other in the workplace. So quite a fair few sticking points, and often we can look at those sticking points as just a mismatch between people's expectations of what their workplace might be like, what is needed, and what supports are needed. So, just as we do in our neurodivergent learner characteristics tool, we then turn to, okay, if you know this, that you have these strengths and you know you have these sticking points or this about a colleague, what are some of the strategies we can wrap around ourselves or invent or ask other people about or support that we need? What are some of the strategies that are working for us? There's no point us dialing into ineffective strategies, but what are the things that are working for us? So executive functioning, organization, planning strategies is not in lesson planning, but planning out our workload strategies can be really effective. It's a matter of finding a strategy that works. For some people, it's lists, diaries, online tools or apps like Goblin tools, some people find really effective. Visual strategies can be really effective as well, keeping something visually front and center. We identified that there can be a challenge between needing that visual reminder of something versus a visually overstimulating and a cluttered visual environment. Quite a lot of tension between those two things, and it's a matter of finding a balance or an equilibrium in that tension. So lots of those executive function and organizational strategies as well can work. In terms of social strategies, we talked through about clarity, about talking about our brain functioning as a team, not as an individual, but as a team, actually using something like Welcome to My Brain. Check out our website to get those conversations about how we are doing as a team. Fantastic letting people in on what's happening for you and being able to understand what's happening for colleagues as well. That's brain fluency. Being curious together about how things are going. So it could be as simple as it's starting off a team meeting in that spirit of curiosity. Hey, I noticed this was going on. Are you okay with that? Asking lots of questions of each other, with each other, being curious, obviously in a really respectful and non-judgmental way, but that curiosity rather than jumping straight to a judgment call can be really useful. It can also be useful to determine as a team or as a staff or individually what things can be flexed in your school work life, what things can be, changed or got rid of completely, and what things are absolutely fixed in concrete and cannot change. So, for instance, NCEA dates cannot change. There's no flex in there. But assignment dates that you give to students in a secondary context, there can be a little bit of flex in there. Or reporting dates, there might be greater flex in there. Or as simple as meeting outlines, is there more flex in there if you go and ask for it as a colleague? Look, we're going to need more time to work through this, this, and this in this meeting. Can we make sure we allocate it? So just rethinking and looking together at where changes, supportive changes can be made, can be a really useful exercise. Obviously, simple sensory supports can be really effective, from loop earplugs on the kind of lowest level earplug can be really useful in noisy contexts, simple sensory tools, fidgets, pockets, etc. Plenty of neurodivergent teachers are really good at engineering tiny little brain breaks for themselves, or tiny little sensory breaks. Walk outside, look at a tree, it resets a few senses. That I'm not recommending everyone goes and does that immediately, but it's those very simple, very small actions that can have a really big impact on that sensory context for many of us. A great strategy that I recently heard about was using, anytime you go through a door, and think about that in a school, in and out of your classroom, in and out of an office, in and out of a staff room, etc. Every time you step through a door, you make that a transition point. You make it a brain break, a reset, a breath in, breath out moment, but you use that visual cue as a mental cue for a reset or a break or what have you. It's a nice way to tie the physical environment to what is going on in your brain. I thought that was a lovely one. Then we also talked about different ways that neurodivergent teachers can collectively work together to stay connected and support each other. More online sessions like this, perhaps just to connect and chat, share ideas, problem solve together. So do keep an eye out across the next term for online sessions to pop up. Do come along. Do nudge a teacher that you might know who might benefit from coming and connecting with other neurodivergent teachers or colleagues, and we can see what we can build from there, because our organisation, as it says on the box, is all about building a more neuro-inclusive school. And that's not just for students, that's for the people who work in that school. Because neuro-inclusion means that all brains, not just the kids' ones, are recognised, understood, supported and celebrated. If you have any questions or thoughts, or have some ideas about ways that neurodivergent teachers can stay connected and support each other, jump on our website, get in touch with us. We'd really love to hear from you. We'd also love your feedback. If you have your phone handy, click on our QR code here. I promise I'm not going to ask you to write an essay, just a couple of really quick questions. Your feedback is absolutely essential to us to help understand what you need. And if you want us to come and chat with you further, or have a conversation further, or work with you in your school, just get in touch on our website. Karakia as we close. Kua mutu a mātou mahi mō tēnei wā, mana ki tia mai mā katoa, o mātou hoa, o mātou whānau, au ki te aorangi. Thank you all for spending a few minutes with me, just talking through what we talked over in our last cafe session about neurodivergent teachers. Thanks all. Bye-bye.